Hey, FIBO friends and family, welcome to the FIBO Focus Podcast. I am Sarah Kiriconi, your host, and I am honored to present this monthly FIBO USA series. This informative and energetic podcast will feature trending topics in the industry and deliver educational insights combined with the stories of our invited industry experts and FIBO fam members. Welcome back to FIBO Focus. I am excited to share this interview with Krista Popowych, the Keiser's Global Director of Group Education and Professional Fitness Trainer. Krista, thank you for making the time today to be with us and do this interview.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be chatting with you again.
You know, our first intro conversation had me so excited because when we were talking about what we were going to develop and share with the FIBO crowd, you know, it really all of a sudden unveiled. So talking about, you know, our topic today of virtual fitness and online training, it's so timely, and so many people listening in can take a lot of the tips that I know you're going to share and inspiration. So I'm excited just to jump right into this conversation. Why don't you kick it off with telling a little intro about yourself, what you do as a global director of group education for Keiser?
All right. Well, thank you. So really my role I see as developing and delivering education to support Kaiser in the fitness equipment that we provide for commercial and for at-home use. So really I delve into learning about how do we educate people to use the equipment well so it really fits their needs, both at the club level and wherever they might be using that equipment.
Well, especially right now, I mean, many people are, at least in the States, they're working out from home. So how have you, in a way, troubleshooted that or inspired people to, you know, still use Kaiser's equipment, but, you know, at home or virtual?
With the virtual piece, really what it did is looking at, where we used to go and deliver workshops and content, live, join us here at this facility and we'll provide this education, or, join us in our classes. It really got the group to reimagine what we could be doing in a virtual world. And so our role and my role with the team is to look at how do we pivot quickly and to provide that. And one of the things we did initially, because we were already doing a little bit, was to provide workshops, but provide it online. So using our team to deliver content and deliver that content free of, no charge at the time, to really to give back to people that were probably struggling as we all were during this time, and to keep our minds continuing, to learn. I think, I always believe in fitness, we're either teaching or learning. So we're going back and forth all the time and being able to provide those opportunities for our audiences out there. So that was one of the key things we did. And also we had to look at how do we do the workout piece of it? How are we going to deliver, classes virtually for people that are at home with, some had bikes, some didn't, some had, equipment of any kind, some didn't, so really looking at that side of our industry.
You know, the line that you said, we're either learning, if you can repeat that, we're either learning
Hmm.
or teaching,
Teaching.
right?
We're either learning or teaching all the time.
Which is a spot on, it's a really beautiful line, because I think to be some of the better teachers, we always do need to be continuously learning. In this experience, what have you learned yourself?
It has been what I can kind of go back. So when at first, okay, we're staying home, we're managing from home, and I went online and I saw so many of my colleagues and people in the industry that were out there, doing classes online and, super excited. And then there was the other part. So I was seeing this, and then for myself, it took me a little bit of time. I had to sit back and look at the world, look what was happening, and just observe for a while. So for the first time in my 35-year fitness career, I wasn't jumping up to teach right away. I wasn't, I had to look at, I had to sit back a little bit and decide, where did I fit into all of this? What was my comfort level in terms of, what could I deliver and do well? And so it was, it when you're asking what did I do differently, it was learning how to use different tools in a virtual world. It was learning how to connect differently. I know when I taught one of my first virtual classes, it was really weird to be teaching to no one, so being able to use the tools to be able to connect through a virtual world where which was really different. So it was a huge learning curve in that sense, and some things were certainly we do just naturally, but other things were to look at the whole tech piece and all of that. So was definitely lots of learning opportunities.
I don't want to spoil this interview because
Mhm.
I definitely want to get into that a little more in depth, because I hear you, to even some of the live things that I've done, and you go on and it's like two eyes when you're used to a full room as an instructor, and you're like, okay, am I terrible all of a sudden? But I want to get
Yeah.
more into that coming up.
Mhm.
First, I want to talk a little more about your background in fitness too, because you just mentioned you've been doing this for many, many years. So very
Mhm.
experienced as a trainer and as a speaker. Tell me a little bit about your probably beginnings, and what's kept you motivated on this track of fitness.
It's a great question. I got started in the late 1980s when it was just in the aerobics boom, we would call it, I would say, and I was very fortunate. I was interested in it. I went away to go to university in a different area, a different field, and I landed at a facility where I was surrounded by a lot of like-minded people that love to be active, that love to provide fitness. And in my mind, I thought, wow, I was just a member at the time. Maybe if I could one day get my foot in the door, maybe I could teach a class one day. And so, long story short, I started in the fitness industry in the club level, working at the front desk. That was my first job. And then I took the training course, and then I switched my degree to kinesiology. And then, anytime an opportunity came about, I put my hand up. Oh, I could do that. I could try that. Or my career. We've all heard the saying that the definition of luck is when hard work meets opportunity. And that's really, I would say, from my career perspective, is that I was presented with lots of great opportunities. I tried to jump on those and learn from those and really expand my career in different areas. So I have taught, I have trained. I mainly spend my time in the education part, presenting, going to conferences, and teaching the trainers and teaching the instructors how to teach better or how to run their businesses in that area. But I am, as I say often when I go in to present, I'm just as excited as I was 30 years ago to teach or to train, because our industry is really such a positive industry. It's about helping people to feel better. We feel better doing it. We feel better because we're active. So from that perspective, the industry itself it has been fantastic, and I have feel very blessed to be in the fitness industry.
Now, I have to add to that as well, because we're only doing audio, but we're doing video, you and I, face to face. And you said you started this in the 80s. You look so young. So this fitness stuff, everybody listening at home, keeps you young too. You look young. You're beautiful and young looking, and you
Oh,
see the
thank you.
passion in your eyes for fitness and for what you're doing. And I'm sure that makes a
Mhm.
huge difference. Now, last year you got involved with FIBO as well in their event that they did in Miami. You were one of the speakers. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we were there at the event, so I had the opportunity to provide some workshops where we did a lecture portion and then we did a practical portion. At this particular conference, I was doing the indoor cycling piece, so definitely had that opportunity to provide education and practical experience at FIBO.
One of your mottos is motivating the unmotivated. And I cannot think of a better time than now to motivate the unmotivated, because there are certainly days when I wake up and I'm like, ooh, no, oh, it's too hot outside. Forget it. What keeps you motivated, and how do you live that motto yourself, but then inspire others?
Mhm. My belief is that sometimes fitness can, you know, in our industry say, "Oh, fitness is so much fun, right? It's so fun." Well, it's fun for us that are active and fit, but we also have to step into the shoes of someone who is just starting out or hasn't had great success with fitness. And how do we give them little steps or provide tools to help them where it doesn't become so overwhelming. So things like, just get out and walk 10 minutes instead of saying, oh, you've got to do 60 minutes of exercise 3 to 4 times a week. All of these should and you need to, but really stepping back and saying, okay, well, what can you do? And taking those setting those much smaller goals for people to help them to hopefully take the next step to do. Maybe they go out for 10 minutes and it turns into 12 minutes or it turns into 15 minutes. So using that as an opportunity. And, in motivating the unmotivated, it's not my phrase per se, but the people that are coming to my fitness classes, they're probably already pretty motivated. So how do I reach the people that are not? And during this pandemic, as we know, with the virtual classes, I think that has been such an excellent ability or tool to be able to reach people at home where they feel safe at home. They're perhaps not with a group of people that are fit. It's just them and their, whatever their device is. So this has been a really huge opportunity for all of us in the industry to reach out to those people and to be able to motivate them to do something that is an exercise based type of program, whatever they love to do, whether it's yoga or indoor cycling or stretching or, you know, whatever types of things that we can do to help them.
Krista, there's a lot of people who will say, yeah, but this is actually the opportunity where I don't want to be motivated. So, but you're seeing it as an opportunity, which I think is phenomenal. How do you personally motivate the unmotivated people who are sitting at home and saying, yeah, well, maybe not? Any tips or tools for anybody listening who is a trainer at
Well,
home?
so for the trainer at home, getting that, if you're not feeling it yourself, it's sitting back and figuring, well, what is it? Why am I not motivated? Am I tired? Do I have too much on the go? Have I not set aside time for this? Those types of things. So for myself, it's something that, not every day we feel like, exercising. But in my mind, I set it up that I know how much better I will feel after. So just to initially say, okay, if I do something, I'm going to feel so much better afterwards. So that's what I focus on. And, as a teacher or trainer, instructor or trainer, sometimes we don't feel like teaching or sometimes we don't feel like training. But if we can flip it in our mind about how that feeling how we will feel afterwards, it sometimes is that just that little push to get through that, whatever that block is.
Great tip. And something I've used too has been journaling. So I journal after the exercise. So like, I feel amazing. This was great. And then those moments where you're like, womp womp, you read back in the journal and you're like, okay, yep, accountability. That's a great tip and tool that you're saying, is to think of the after. You brought up and we touched on, but I want to delve into really the meat of what we want to talk about. And that's virtual fitness classes, seeing it as an opportunity in the time of COVID, post-COVID, but really stay at home fitness. And tell me, is it here to stay? What do you think on that?
I do think it's here to stay. I believe we could do a great combination of both virtual and live programming. So to continue it, I do feel that it is definitely here to stay, and it's. I think it does provide good opportunities for trainers and for anyone in the industry, both to be able to go to the club and teach and train, or to look at doing it from home, or doing a combination of both. So I do feel that there's lots of great opportunities to do virtual training.
Now, I used to teach professionally as well. And I always found, you go to a class or a club and you get a set pay rate. And when you start doing things virtually, it changes a little bit. What is your take or thoughts on trainers offering free classes? How do they charge for them? Like, what's that setup?
That's a good question. And as a fitness professional, if you look at yourself as a fitness professional and you're providing a service to someone and you've done the training and the education and put the time in to create those programs and develop those, whatever it is that you are, then you should feel very confident that your time does have a value to it and to be able to charge for that. If you're doing nothing and expecting to get paid, well, then that's different. But if you put the work in, the time and the energy, and you're providing a quality service, whatever that service is, people are willing to pay for that. And you should feel fairly comfortable to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to charge for my services, and to do that, because you do need to make a living as well.
Definitely agree. And I share the same sentiments as you do as well. You want to be seen as a professional, act like one, but then also charge like one too. And now,
Mhm.
any tips for someone listening at home about marketing those classes?
Right. Yeah, I would first of all sit down and figure out what your niche is in terms of what type of service you are providing. You might not be able to be everything to everyone, so really kind of hone in on what you see as your niche. When you're putting that together, being very consistent, whether you're providing training or you're providing classes, so the consistency part is important. Choosing what your platform is, on where you're going to be, what you're how you're delivering your training or your course. You have to look at your platform, and then from that, really making sure that whatever you're doing is very professional, from things like the space that you're using, how you're, what equipment that you are using, the lighting that you're using, the sound, the music, all those different pieces becomes the initial part. So before you even start promoting it, you need to kind of answer those questions, and then looking at what is the audience that you're trying to reach. So, for example, looking at the demographic of who you're trying to reach. If you were asked my 15-year-old son, he would say, Mom, only grandmas use Facebook. So he's, that's not going to be necessarily my demographic. So finding the social media platform that matches who you're trying to reach, and you might need multiple ones. So thinking about that as well.
Can you give us a little breakdown of the different platforms that you would recommend, and for either niche or, age or
Hmm.
target
Hmm.
audience?
Well, certainly not an expert in this area. I can certainly speak from what I have used. So I have used Facebook Live, I have used Instagram, and I have used even Zoom meetings. So depending on what it is that you're delivering, is to find that platform. So things like you might want to create Facebook groups, those types of things. You're looking at, are you providing even stories? I think you have to really delve into play. I would, you know what, to go back, I would say, try the different ones and see which one seems to work best. Where do you get the greatest engagement? I know for different platforms, I get better engagement from one over the other. The other thing was looking at things like, say, a Zoom meeting where you can see all your students' faces, and that's a different feeling than just teaching out to, say, Facebook Live, where you can't see your audience. So you have to consider those things. Liability. So I know some areas, I'm in Canada, but if I'm doing a class live, having a Zoom meeting where I can see everybody in the class is one of the requirements for certain insurance. So there's different things that you have to really look into for where it is that you're teaching and who you are teaching to.
The insurance part is a big one, and that falls in line with, that's a great tip for anybody listening at home, is really check with insurance and how that's covered, and, for liabilities. Because if you're teaching somebody how to do, for example, a headstand, and, they're at home and you don't see that, like, that can be a little scary of a place. And that's where I think that there's a big, uh, having safety as a priority for online and virtual classes. As you're saying, it goes back to being professional. We also
Hmm.
talked about, in the past, about music, and there are certain music rights to take into consideration. I know you teach workshops on all this, so I don't want to give away too much on it, but they're all things to consider. And one of the things that I find most important with any of these fitness classes is sound and audio. I
Hmm.
can't hear the teacher, I'm gone. I've
Right.
noticed that with some classes where I've tried to listen in, and there are even some of my teachers that I used to love going to from Boston, actually. And I tried to hear it, and I'm like, I can't hear you. Never mind being a downward facing dog and try and practice. So they're all great
Yes.
things to consider.
Hmm. You almost need a buddy system. So if you're not sure how it sounds, like having someone on the other end that can, in your chat, say, I can't hear you, or your music is too loud and your voice is, so you have to. It's a lot. It's not it's not just a plug and play kind of process. You have to be prepared. You have to practice. You have to try your setups and yes, your sound and making sure you're getting, the music that is, allowed for virtual classes and those types of things. So yes, good tips too.
And now you talk about the environment, and I agree, because it's got to be a clean space that's also pleasant on the eyes if we're talking about virtual. What is a tip or a few tips for anyone who's setting up the environment for hosting a
Mhm.
virtual class?
Yes, I would set it up and then take a couple pictures of it and look at it. Is it too busy? Is your backspace too crowded? Is it where are you centered? Are you going to be able to move as much as you need to move to show the exercises? Is the camera too high, too low? Is it at the right angle? Those types of things. So setting up that space and taking photos of it first and really looking at it. Things like lighting, if you just have an overhead light, that's going to shadow you versus having, some other natural light would probably be best. Those are things that it takes a little bit of time, but it makes such a difference on the quality of the product that you are putting out there.
You're becoming a production pro over there for sure.
Yeah, that goes back to what you asked me about. What have I learned? Well, those are some of the things that I have learned. And the other nice thing with the virtual, especially because everybody was at home at one time and there was kids in the background and dogs and you know what, you just have to sometimes just let it go and it is what it is and laugh about it because we're all in the same kind of situation. So if things go wrong, and one time my son I think texted me 28 times in the middle of class, and there's things that were happening that they happen, and you just kind of have to laugh it off and just keep going.
Well, I'm sure as a mom too, you're wondering, is everything okay? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
Shavasana, quiet down over there, cool down. Is my son
Yeah.
okay?
we did talk about that after. Yeah. Sorry I can't talk right now means, yeah, sorry I can't talk right now.
Oh, well, that was really great, insightful information. Do you have any other tips, Krista, or recommendations for those who are listening to stay empowered, to stay motivated, and for inspiration for virtual content moving forward, both as a club, a studio, as a fitness instructor, and also just as a fitness enthusiast? Any tips?
Mm-hmm. I believe it's really about embracing what our new reimagined world is like and embracing that and being okay that it's not going to be perhaps just perfect yet, and to at the end of the day, if we can help someone get active or get them moving or make them smile because they feel a little bit better, then we've really done our job. And that's really ultimately what the goal is. How do we inspire people to live healthier lives and take those first steps, and really it's really in connecting with them, empowering them, and giving them the tools to help them along the way.
Nice take home message. Where can we find you, Krista? Because you are a wealth of information.
Well, you can find me any social media platforms with my name, Krista Popowych, Popowych, or you can reach me directly at Keiser as well, KristaP@Keiser.com. That's another way we can connect with me.
We'll link all those below as well. Thank you, Krista,
Okay,
so
great.
much.
Thank you so much.
Take care, keep inspiring, and keep us all fit from home virtually, and then soon again in the clubs.
See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the FIBO USA Focus Podcast. We hope you enjoyed hearing from Krista Popowych about her role as a global director with Keiser and expertise and industry insights on virtual fitness classes and the future of fitness using virtual classes as an opportunity. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the FIBO Focus Podcast and tell us what you'd like to hear about in the fitness industry. Who knows, maybe we will interview one of your favorite industry pros next. You can stay up to date with everything about the podcast and our FIBO USA event by following on social media at FIBO USA. Thanks again, and keep an eye out for our episode dropping next month. This is your FIBO Focus Podcast host, Sarah Kiriconi, signing off. Stay fit and stay informed.